Alright, back for another beer review, and today I'll be reviewing yet another collaboration beer. This time between the Burial Beer Company, and they are headquartered in Asheville, North Carolina, and the Zillicoah Beer Company, and they are out of Woodfin, North Carolina, and Threes Brewing, and they are out of Brooklyn, New York, and this is their Floodlight. So this is a Helles-style lager that comes in at 5.2% alcohol by volume, 26 IBUs at the time of review. And this can is just over 3 months old. I want to give a huge thanks and shout out once again to a very good friend of mine and viewer of the channel, Curtis, for this beer. So big thanks to him. In the description box, I'll post a link to the beer mail boxing video I did that contains all the goodies that Curtis sent my way. And he sent me 10 beers in total, 9 of which were from Burial, and 4 of those were lagers. This is one of those lagers. Now, what's really cool about this one is what I'm about to read. This is from their Instagram and Untapped. I'm just reading it from Untapped because it's pretty much the same. It says, made for memories, shared for progress. There are very few brewers as open, authentic, and willing to share on an emotional level as Zillicoah Beer Company. And those are the same reasons why their lager house on the river resonates with so many. I've had many brooding conversations with these wonderful people, and I adore their willingness to acknowledge what's real about beer, about life, never overthink it, and do what means something to you. This pale lager was manifested with those very ethos in mind. One of the first offerings we were able to brew after the storm, which we'll talk about momentarily, says with tanked in clean water, made with Weyermann Pilsner malt and hopped with Hersbrucker and a kiss of Spalter. And then it talks about tasting notes, which I won't read. It says a portion of the sales of this beer will be directly benefiting our local collaborators in their rebuilding journey. So I think it was late last September, Hurricane Helene produced devastating floods in the Asheville area, and Zillicoah's brewery for the most part, was pretty much wiped out. They are rebuilding, which is cool to see, and breweries like Burial are helping them as some of the proceeds of the sale of this beer go to them and other businesses in the area that were affected. So I always love when local collabs like this are for the betterment of the area, and in this situation with the terrible hurricane that hit and the devastating floods, it's cool to see a beer like this helping out to some degree with Zillicoah rebuilding. So that is a pretty damn cool, and I am super happy that Curtis was able to send this one my way. Regardless of what I think about the beer, it's all about them getting back on their feet, and I hope this beer is quite delicious as well. So anyway, we're going to pour it into the big mug here and see what we got going on. I'm expecting a damn tasty Helles-style lager, and if you follow the channel, you know Helles lagers are one of my favorite lighter styles when it comes to a German beer. So let's give it a pour here into the mug. Try to generate a decent head here if we can. Yeah, that looks beautiful, honestly. Let me turn it around for you. Now look at that beer. I think that beer looks fantastic. Now, let me bust out the light so you can see a little bit better, because on camera it's looking a little bit darker than what it does in person. Again, I don't know if you'll be able to see as well, but yeah, what you're seeing is a little bit more what I'm seeing, maybe slightly lighter, but yeah, it looks really, really nice. Has this beautiful straw golden color. It does have very fine particulates, which I can see floating around. Good carbonation. Had about a finger of this beautiful, somewhat soap sudsy, but somewhat creamy looking bright white head. It is now displayed to a thin film. But again, in the mug, I think it looks quite proper for what you would probably want out of a beer like this. So let's get a nose. The one thing I like about Helles, and I pretty much mention this every single time I review a Helles lager, is that I love the complexity to the bready notes from the malt in this. And again, it's like a rustic white bread. There's almost a little bit of like a spiciness that reminds me of rye. Maybe only a little bit of like a honey bread. But it's just big, beautiful, bready malt notes. There's a little bit, again, of a spicy, almost grassy herbaceousness from the hops. Maybe a touch of like citrus, like a little bit of lemon, maybe a red apple pear, a little bit of fruity kind of component to this one. But I think it's more citrus leaning than anything. It just smells like a super refreshing, yet complex, lighter beer. And that's what these are supposed to be. And it's making my mouth water, and I want to get into it. Hang on. Something picked up. Hang on. Yeah, it has a little bit of that sulfury kind of note too. As Kyle over at No Hype Beer Reviews, a very good friend of mine, fellow beer tuber, says, he can smell the fermentation. Yeah, I definitely have a little. I mean, it smells like a lager. So cheers, prost. Thanks again, Curtis. Yeah, very nice. Very nice. A little bit over 3 months old, and I've noticed with a lot of like lagers and stuff, it doesn't obviously matter as much as like a hop forward beer. But I think the nose was a little bit more impactful after that first sip. Like it was very bright. And then the taste is a little bit less impactful flavor-wise, but man, it's so easy to drink. So body on this one, straight up medium body, beautiful for a 5.2% Helles style lager. It's not thin, it's not too big, it's right where it should be. The mouthfeel has a nice, crisp, clean, and refreshing nature to it. Moderate carbonation, smooth going down on the second half of the palate. I think what is not making me go nuts over this beer is that complex bready note that I typically get with Helles lagers. It's there, but it's a little bit more subdued and not as complex. So forefront, I get that grainy, again, super bready kind of malt character. It has more of, a rustic kind of like white bread. It doesn't have that, the spiciness on the palate's not as big as it was in the nose. But yeah, rustic white bread, maybe even like a sourdough bread. Hits me right at the forefront, dives underneath the palate, long for the ride the entire way through the palate, but it never steps in the way. There's other flavors that hit me. It's just working in a great cohesion with the rest of the flavors. Middle of the palate, nice zippy, zesty kind of lemon. A little bit of that like red apple skin that I sometimes get out of this style. A touch of like a white pear. It's not too big with the fruit character, which is nice. Second half of the palate, that's where a little bit of that spicy kind of herbaceousness hits. It's definitely grassy, a touch of floral. Finish is bone dry, definitely dry on the palate with a mild to moderate bitterness. Very well balanced at that sweet, bready component you get the forefront, balanced out by the dry and a bittering sensation on the back of the palate, more dry than bitter. Beautifully well balanced. It's just the flavors aren't wowing me to the point where I'm going nuts over it, but I would be lying to you if I said this wasn't a damn tasty beer, because it is. 5.2%, you cannot tell. Very crisp, very clean. A little bit of that sulfur note I was getting in the nose carried over. Very clean fermentation, but clean on the back of the palate as well. Yeah, it's a really nice Helles style lager. Not, the best I've had from American Brewery or anything, but I think this is a very nice beer, especially when you take in consideration what this beer was brewed for. And, sometimes that gets lost on me a little bit when I review beers, especially, collabs or something brewed for maybe a special occasion or whatever. And the beer doesn't always have to be like the best in the style and top notch. It's just, this is brewed to help Zillicoah rebuild their brewery. And I think they did it with a very nice, easygoing, tasty Helles style lager. And that's kind of what I expect from Burial is good beer. And this is a good beer. So Floodlight from Burial, Zillicoah, and Threes. I am going to give this, we'll go low 4.2 or 4.25. We'll go 4.15. I think that's a fair score for this one. I think it's really nice. I don't think it's amazing or the best I've ever had in the style or anything, but it doesn't need to be. And sometimes that needs to be said. Price point availability, I checked their website, $16 a 4-pack now. Again, part of the proceeds go to helping places in the Asheville area rebuild, and I'm sure, it'll go to Zillicoah, a lot of this. So $16 a 4-pack, yeah. I mean, that's fine. For a regular Helles, that's on the higher end of an American brewery. Like the highest I've seen really like a Helles style lager has been like 17, 18 bucks. So it's the higher end, but in this situation, I don't give a shit. Yeah, pay that and help them out. Now, I don't think this is probably available at the brewery, or if so, they probably don't have a ton as much anymore. But I do know from following Zillicoah on IG and also Burial is that I think they have released at least another collab, maybe a couple. So they're definitely helping out more than just this beer, which is awesome. And availability, again, it's Burial. They put it out. I don't know if it made it into like local bottle shops or in their distribution footprint, but I do know this was available at the brewery because Curtis, the aforementioned Curtis, ordered from Burial and had it sent to his house in Ohio, and then he sent me a can of it. So huge thanks to Curtis for this one. If you've had this one, please post in the comment section. Let me know what you thought about it. Again, a very easygoing, well-made Helles style lager that isn't, setting a new standard here or anything, but it doesn't need to, because that's what the style's about. Easy drinking, enjoying yourself, and I think they did a great job with it. So here's to Zillicoah getting back on their feet ASAP. Probably to take a while for them to rebuild, but I'm glad that they are. So I've only had one beer from Zillicoah, and it wasn't a fantastic beer, but I do know a lot of people locally in North Carolina, more specifically the Asheville area, really dig their beer. And hopefully when they do rebuild, maybe I'll be able to get my hands on some of their stuff. So anyway, I'm going to shut this one down. Appreciate everybody stopping by for another beer review here in the Beer Patrol. Huge thanks to Curtis for this one again. Like I said, 5.2%, super easy, super crushable, and I'm going to go drink the rest of the list. Rest of this. I said like 3 things in a matter of a quarter second, and none of them made sense. I am going to drink the rest of this. Cheers, everyone. Prost.